Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Before we start, I would ask everyone to please mute yourself. And if you're not speaking, to turn off your video. We will have a chance at the end of the program to be able to answer questions that you might have. But having the video off will allow a better resolution of the signal for everyone else. Good afternoon. I'm John Parvensky. I'm the president and the CEO of the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless and president of the Renaissance Housing Development Corporation. And I'm proud to have served in that capacity here for the last 35 years. On behalf of the coalition, I want to welcome you to our first virtual grand opening of our newest supportive housing development, the Renaissance Veterans Apartments. This development brings us to over 2,000 homes that we've created over the last 30 years for homeless families and individuals. Today we celebrate the efforts to bring homeless veterans home. In just a few minutes, we'll show a video that includes my remarks that I've recorded on the site a couple of days ago at the Renaissance Veterans Apartments at Fitzsimons. Then we'll have remarks from Governor Jared Polis, from Congressman Jason Crow, who's a veteran who represents the district where this property is located, Michael Kilner, who is the director of the Department of Veterans Affairs, Eastern Colorado Health System. And then we'll have a virtual tour of the facility so you'll be able to see what it is that we've built, the amenities that the property provides, as well as the services that will be provided. Then we'll have some comments from Leanne Wheeler, who's an Air Force veteran who has herself experienced homelessness and now serves on the board of directors of the coalition. And we'll hear from T.R. Reid, who's a Navy veteran who also chairs the coalition's board of directors. And then we will have some time for questions and answers. The event's also being recorded and will be made available on Monday that you can share with others. But before we start the video presentation, I would just like to acknowledge that doing a virtual opening is a bit awkward, and it doesn't really provide you all the opportunity to experience the quality and the design of these new apartments and the opportunities that they will bring to the homeless veterans who will soon call it their home. We can't wait for the time when you're able to visit and see it in person and meet some of the residents. Now, the Renaissance Veterans Apartments at Fitzsimons will provide 60 affordable and supportive housing apartments dedicated to homeless veterans in our community. I want to acknowledge before we begin the tremendous support that we've received from the state of Colorado through the Department of Human Services and the Department of Local Affairs through the Division of Housing, who has provided the land for this project, as well as financing and Section 8 and VASH vouchers to serve the needs of veterans who will soon call this their home. I also want to acknowledge the Bank of the West, who provided $13 million of investment through opportunity zones and low-income housing tax credit investments to help fund the construction of this development in conjunction with the NAHT. I also want to highlight the support of the community, including the Home Depot Foundation, who provided $500,000 toward the construction of the project, as well as the Veteran Services organizations who advocated for this project and helped to make it happen, as well as the volunteers who are furnishing the new homes of these veterans. So with that, let's roll the video. Good morning. I'm John Parvensky, and on behalf of the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless and Renaissance Housing Development Corporation, I want to welcome you virtually to the grand opening of the Renaissance Veterans Apartments at Fitzsimons. This is the 18th grand opening of a housing development that I've done here at the Coalition over the last 30 years. And this is the first one that we've done virtually in the COVID pandemic world. So bear with us. The Renaissance Veterans Apartments is a newly constructed 60-unit supportive housing development located here on the site of the old Fitzsimons Medical Center, just 2 blocks from the new VA Medical Center here in Aurora. When the Fitzsimons Army Medical Center closed in 1999, a process developed in terms of how to use a portion of the site to support the needs of homeless individuals and how to redevelop the broader site to meet the needs of the Aurora community. And so with the prodding of veteran service organizations in the state legislature, this site, which has sat vacant for 20 years, was put out to bid through an RFP process for supportive housing for homeless veterans. And the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless was awarded by the Colorado Department of Human Services the right to build this new facility on this site, right next to the Colorado Veterans State Home. So we're excited to be here today to open this and to create a new home for the homeless veterans that unfortunately there are too many in our community. But the result of this represents a tremendous collaboration between public and private entities to be able to create brand new housing for people who have served our country and yet came back, ended up on the streets or in our shelters, and now have the opportunity to call a brand new facility their home. And it couldn't come soon enough. On any given night, there are over 600 homeless veterans here in our community. People who have served our country and yet have had the community turn their backs on them and neglect them to the point that they have ended up on the streets and in the shelters. But again, this project is a testimony to what can happen when the community comes together in partnership and in collaboration toward a focus of ending homelessness for our homeless veterans. First, the Department of Human Services is providing the land to us through a 99-year ground lease. We were able to secure low-income housing tax credits from the Colorado Housing Finance Authority that provided the incentive to get private investment to end up building the facility. We were able to secure the support of the National Affordable Housing Trust and with their partner, the Bank of the West, provided $13 million toward the construction of this facility. The Home Depot Foundation provided a $500,000 grant to support the construction of these new homes for veterans. And the Department of Local Affairs, through the Division of Housing, provided a $2 million long-term loan at 0 interest rate to be able to, again, secure the financing to complete the package. The City of Aurora contributed $400,000 of home funds to add to the facility. And the Federal Home Loan Bank of Topeka, through the Mercy Loan Fund, provided an additional $750,000 toward the construction of the building. With the financing in place, we were able to then secure the architect Studio Completiva to design this beautiful building that will be home to these 60 new veterans and their families. And Alliance Construction, who has worked to build many of the facilities and the housing that we've developed over the years, provided the construction services to be able to build this beautiful facility. The furnishings have been donated. We hope to have all of the units totally furnished when the veterans move in. And they'll be able to start moving in as soon as next week as the building receives its final inspections. Permanent supportive housing or supportive housing is something that we know works, particularly for chronically homeless individuals and for veterans who have been on the streets and have been struggling in terms of being able to maintain work, to maintain housing. And so this is an example of how supportive housing can make a difference in the lives not only of homeless veterans, but all homeless families and individuals who need that extra support to be able to leave the streets behind for good. We're fortunate that we have the support of the state, we have the support of the city. We were able to have the support of the Fitzsimons Redevelopment Authority through the design process to be able to bring this project to fruition. And so again, coming together as a community, we have addressed and will address homelessness for 60 individuals. However, if you do the math, that still leaves almost 600 veterans still on the streets or in our shelters tonight. So it's really a down payment toward what we owe to veterans. And during this week, where we're commemorating Veterans Day, it's important for all of us to remember that there not only are those 600 homeless veterans still on the streets and in our shelters of the community here in Metro Denver, but hundreds of additional veterans throughout the states and thousands more throughout our country. We need a renewed focus on how we provide housing not only to homeless veterans, but to all families and individuals experiencing homelessness. This, I think, shows how it can be done, with the community coming together, with government providing support, with the private sector, community organizations, foundations providing financial support, and with organizations like the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless and the VA Medical Center providing the support for the veterans who will be living here. I want to thank the people who have really been the driving force to bring this construction to completion at the Coalition and the Renaissance Housing Development Corporation, Jennifer Cloud, our Vice President of Housing Development, and Jay Hans, who was the project manager for this project, who worked closely with Alliance to complete construction on this beautiful building.
Hi, I'm Governor Jared Polis, and today I'm proud to honor the groundbreaking of the Veterans Renaissance Apartments at Fitzsimons. I want to thank the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless for their long-standing commitment to provide housing for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. I want to thank John Parvensky, President and CEO of CCH. Under John's leadership, CCH has grown from a single health center to a network that provides critical services to over 20,000 individuals and families. I also want to thank the Department of Local Affairs, the Division of Housing, the Department of Human Services, and the Veterans Administration, whose continued work on supportive housing keeps people housed and saves lives. You know, on any given night in the United States, towns and cities across our country, there's about 40,000 veterans that go without a roof over their head. That is inexcusable, and sadly, Colorado is not immune to this national challenge. We're proud of our state's military tradition, home to over 400,000 veterans, the U.S. Air Force Academy, the active commands, the U.S. Space Command. But with this rich history comes a responsibility. If we support our troops when they're in service or overseas, we must commit to thanking and supporting those who served when they get home. These brave men and women served our country, but when they fell in hard times, either due to lack of support when they returned or transitioned out of the military, or perhaps substance abuse or mental health challenges, we need to do better to meet their needs. And these factors are only compounded when there's not a strong support system in place. Today, almost 1,000 people who have served our nation are homeless in our state. While that number has decreased over the past few years, anything more than zero is unacceptable. That's why one of my top priorities is creating a Colorado where everyone in our state can thrive, no matter your zip code or housing situation. Together with our federal partners at the Veterans Administration and Housing and Urban Development, we're making great strides towards addressing chronic homelessness amongst our veteran population. Each year, we distribute housing vouchers to provide veterans with housing and wraparound services to help ensure permanent, stable housing. Just last year, our Division of Housing administered nearly 1,000 housing vouchers with partners across the state. And we're going to continue and build upon that work. Despite our efforts, this pandemic has laid bare the weaknesses and inequalities in affordable housing that simply must be addressed, which is why my budget proposal for 21-22 includes $50 million for housing eviction prevention and direct benefits to individuals who aren't eligible for other assistance. Today, I'm excited to include the Veterans Renaissance Apartments in our vision for a recovery that's equitable and help those who've been most impacted by the pandemic. Veterans Renaissance Apartments demonstrates what we can do when state and local partners work together for change. 56 one-bedroom and 4 two-bedroom units with full kitchens, bathrooms, permanent supportive housing, high ceilings, large windows, a real sense of openness and light for residents. On-site amenities include property and case management, a computer lab, a community kitchen, a medical exam room. Outdoor amenities include gathering spaces, a dog run, and a nature path to explore the great outdoors safely. Conveniently located on-site with veteran services, these units provide the opportunity for veterans to live independently with dignity while maintaining access to healthcare and other services. Our veterans have served our country honorably, protecting our freedoms here and abroad. And now, at a time where home is often the safest place to be during the pandemic, we have the opportunity to be of service to them, to thank them for providing a place that they can call their own and home. I'm grateful to all of our public and private partners who helped make this development a reality, and I wish you all a safe and healthy Veterans Day.
Hi, Congressman Jason Crow here. It's an honor to speak with you today as we celebrate the virtual grand opening of the Veterans Renaissance Apartments at Fitzsimons. We have all waited a long time for this day, and I am so proud of the hard work of the many Coloradans who helped make this project a reality. And in doing so, they help provide for our veterans. The Colorado Coalition for the Homeless has consistently done incredible work providing affordable housing in our community. In their advocacy, they have ensured we are developing and implementing lasting solutions for people experiencing homelessness. When the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless first undertook this project in 2019, there were over 600 veterans experiencing homelessness in our community. Today, their mission has taken on an even greater urgency as we face a global pandemic. For our veterans, the consequences of homelessness can be deadly, and we as a community have an obligation to work together to find a solution. Well, today, the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless is doing exactly that. I also want to thank our new Senator-elect John Hickenlooper, who as governor signed into law legislation that made sure we as a state are caring for our veterans. We have a duty to be there for our veterans when they take off the uniform. And today, Colorado took another step forward in fulfilling that sacred responsibility. Because the fact is, far too often, the service and sacrifice of veterans has been forgotten amidst our political debate. In fact, the civilian-military divide has never been greater, with less than 1% of Americans serving in active duty. But we can't forget our veterans. I say this not as a politician, but as a former Army Ranger and veteran myself. When I came back from my 3 tours of combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, I was lucky to have a support system by my side to help me during my transition to civilian life. But I struggled to get many of my benefits like many of my fellow veterans, and that experience has helped inform my work in Congress. We owe our veterans a debt we can never repay. They are great Americans who have taken an oath to serve our country faithfully and do what's right by our country. Because the fact is, you don't do it for the paycheck, the medal, or the uniform. You do it because you believe in America. And now America must believe in them. We must make sure we are providing our veterans with the care and resources they have earned. In Congress, I'm working hard to make sure we do exactly that by improving access to health care for our veterans, reducing red tape for our veteran-owned small businesses, ensuring oversight and accountability of the VA, and helping provide for the financial stability of all of our veterans. Taking care of our veterans isn't a Democratic issue, it isn't a Republican issue, it is an American issue. So thank you and congratulations once again on today's opening of the Veterans Renaissance Apartments. These homes will have a transformative effect on so many in our community and ensure we give our vets the dignity and care they deserve. And once we're past this pandemic, I look forward to visiting in person. Thank you all again.
Michael Kilmer, the Director of VA Eastern Colorado Healthcare System. In its 2019 Annual Homelessness Assessment Report to Congress, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, reported that on any given night, more than 37,000 veterans experience homelessness across the country. Of that staggering number, just over 800 of those veterans experience homelessness in the Denver metro area. The number of veterans experiencing homelessness in the Denver metro area has nearly doubled in the last year alone. We also know that the challenges experienced in 2020 are only in the beginning of being recognized, and that there will be more challenges and obstacles ahead. But I have hope. The opening of the Veterans Renaissance Apartments at the Fitzsimons is a huge step in the right direction for our veterans and even more for our communities. I've had the honor of being a director at 2 Colorado VA hospitals, and the commitment that Colorado demonstrates to building affordable housing and sustainable living is incredible. These 60 units, 30 of them going to our HUD-VASH program, will create great opportunities for our vulnerable veterans to have access to permanent supportive housing in such a large facility on a shared campus, allowing them great access to VA healthcare. These apartments will change lives and create more than a warm shelter, but a home. And with a future and a community, we are excited to partner with the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless to support this amazing complex and to have a HUD-VASH VA social worker assigned to this site. We must support our communities as they support us. These partnerships are crucial to a way forward to ending veteran homelessness nationally. Thank you.
Okay, we're here at the main entrance of the Renaissance Veterans Apartment at Fitzsimons. You can see that it's a grand entry to provide a sense of home for the homeless veterans who will soon call this facility their home. So one of the elements of supportive housing is having a front desk and supportive housing counseling rooms, case management rooms that can provide support to the residents who are living here, both to provide security and oversight, but also to provide what you might call concierge services in a market rate apartment. So we're lucky, again, to have the cooperation and the support of the VA Medical Center to provide services directly to the homeless veterans, as well as our residential support services team, who will be providing services to all of the veterans here. So I'm standing here now in one of the case management offices that's part of the service complex of the Renaissance Veterans Apartments here at Fitzsimons. Supportive housing comes not only with an apartment that somebody can call their own, but also with staff who can provide counseling and support to individuals to help them stabilize in their housing, help them address any issues that might come up that might jeopardize their housing, connect them to other community services. And we're fortunate to have a great partnership with the VA Medical Center, with the homeless programs, with the VASH, Veterans Assisted Supportive Housing, Section 8 vouchers that are being provided by the Colorado Division of Housing in cooperation with the VA Department of Veterans Affairs. And the department will have staff here to complement the staff from the coalition through our resident support services team to be able to meet the needs of the veterans and their families who are living here. Okay, so we're standing here in one of the beautiful spaces that's part of the Renaissance Veterans Apartments here at Fitzsimons. One of the things that we do when we're building supportive housing is to build something that you and I would like to live in, not something that is for folks who are down on their luck and don't have many opportunities, but really create a beautiful space and a beautiful community so that people who live here can interact and become neighbors, not only with people in the building, but the surrounding community. So doing that by having a place like this, I'm in the library right now, which is a second community space. We started in the community room that will be available for the residents here to use at their pleasure, to be able to meet with others, to have training events, to have parties when we have the ability to socially gather again in person. So you can see that the architectural elements that we have added to this is a way that we really got the input of veterans before we started building, to build a building that they thought that would be enticing for them, that would build community with others. And so that, I think we've accomplished that, and I believe that the veterans who will be living here will love that. So I'm standing here in the kitchen of one of the apartments that will soon be home to a homeless veteran. Again, all of the facilities, all of the appliances that anyone would want in their home. We've had the fortune of having volunteers furnish the room for the veteran who will live here. It's again, this is a one-bedroom apartment, so they'll have their own living space, their own bathroom, their own kitchen and living room, just like I have and just like most people in our country aspire to. So we think that, again, architecturally, this will help to build a community that any veteran would love to live here, particularly those who have been struggling to find and maintain housing without support.
Hi, I'm Leanne Wheeler. I'm an Air Force veteran, Desert Storm. I finished up my military career right here in Colorado shortly after the Desert Storm conflict. I have the privilege of serving on the board of directors with Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, and my service to country actually brought me to service to this board. You see, I actually lived unhoused for about 16 months following the economic downturn of 2008. And so I was startled to learn about the number of our unhoused who actually served this country and who did not have alternatives to living unhoused on the streets. And so we as a society must make a decision about how we want to manage our chief pandemic, our chief societal ill, and that is our unhoused population. But for our society failing, we wouldn't see the numbers of folks that we in fact see. So I'm grateful to Colorado Coalition for the Homeless for their work, for our work, and ensuring that my brothers and sisters in arms have a place to call home, that they have the mental health and medical care that they need, and that they have an opportunity to move back into community in service once they're stably housed. So thank you for being here. And I'd like to honor and acknowledge all of my brothers and sisters in arms on this Veterans Day, whether or not you are housed, you certainly belong to my community and our community of service. God bless.
Hi, everybody. I'm T.R. Reid. I'm chairman of the board of directors of the Colorado Homeless, and I'm a proud U.S. Navy veteran. I served in the nuclear Navy. I sailed on the Big E, the great nuclear aircraft carrier USS Enterprise, CVN 65, and then on the USS Silversides, an attack submarine, SSN 679. And after that, I was assigned to the offices of Admiral H.G. Rickover, the man who created the nuclear Navy and was commandant of the nuclear Navy at the time. And today, working with the Coalition for the Homeless, I'm often reminded of my service in the Navy because Admiral Rickover was a great American, and he's a man who did the impossible. He achieved something that everybody wanted, but nobody thought could be done. And in this, the homeless does every day. We take on a job that many people thought was homeless, and we get it done every day. Let me explain. Naval Academy graduate. He had 6 decades in uniform, but he didn't believe in rank. He always said that the lowest seaman, the fourth class valuable to the Navy, as a 4-star admiral. And when I got to his command, I was an ensign, which is the lowest of the low in naval officer ranks. And in that command, there were a lot of captains and admirals around. And I think any veteran will realize that that's pretty intimidating for a lowly or an admiral every day. He didn't care about any of that stuff. One day he was in his office in an argument. He was having an argument with Admiral Frank Layton, who was a very important guy in the U.S. Navy at the time. And Rickover figured out that if he got me into this discussion, I'd probably agree with him and disagree with Layton. He calls me into his office, and it's pretty intimidating. I'm an ensign, and here's a 3-star admiral and a 2-star admiral, a lot of brass. And Rickover didn't care. He says, "Reid, tell Admiral Layton why he's full of crap." That's what he said. It was kind of hard for an ensign to do, but it was because of that unconventional view of things, the way things had always been done, that Admiral Rickover was able to achieve something impossible. Here's what he did. About 3 or 4 years in Hiroshima, Admiral Rickover figured out that you could use the force of an atomic bomb to drive ships safely over the world. And he put nuclear power plants and they went everywhere. And this made a historic change in naval strategy, because conventional ships, wherever they were, they had to stop every 3-4 days and find an oiler and refill the oil tanks to drive the engine. But a nuclear submarine can go around the world for 10 years without refueling. And this kind of ship had been the dream of Navy planners for forever, but nobody could make it happen. And Admiral Rickover did the impossible. He made it happen. And as I say, I think that's the same thing the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless does. When we walk around the streets of Denver or Aurora, the Coalition for the Homeless for more than 35 years has been doing something about it. We have taken thousands of people from the streets and given them healthy, new, productive lives by providing safe, secure housing, regular access to good medical care, mental health care, substance abuse training, job training, and many other services, which we provide for thousands of Coloradans every day of the year. And, you know, when we see those people on the streets, some of them are veterans. Welcome to all the veterans who are going to live in our housing. Congratulations to the Coalition for the Homeless. Anchors away.
So I want to again thank Governor Polis, Congressman Crow, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and our veteran board members, Leanne and TR, for their remarks. I also want to acknowledge that I believe that Mayor Mayorkaufman, who is mayor of Aurora and also a veteran, may be on the Zoom today. So we thank the mayor and the city of Aurora for their support in making this happen in their community. I also want to thank everyone who supported this development from conception to completion. And I want to thank the Adorn to Sell home staging group that provided the video tour that you just watched, as well as the furnishings to make it feel like the home that it will become very shortly. I also want to thank all of our veterans and current service members who have given so much to defend our country and all of us in their service. I can't help but thank again Studio Completiva, the architect who did such quality design work that you've just seen, as well as Alliance Construction Solutions, who worked to bring this project to completion on time and on budget, which is very difficult, particularly during this COVID pandemic. They were able to get it done, so thank you. And I want to acknowledge again the housing development staff of the Coalition and the Renaissance Housing Development Corporation, who worked tirelessly to get this project to fruition, and particularly Bill Windsor, Jennifer Cloud, and Jay Hands, who is on site most often to make sure that this vision that we had came into reality. And I'm also humbled by all of the people working at the Coalition every day, dedicating themselves to our most vulnerable neighbors, providing healthcare and housing to so many, particularly during this COVID pandemic, when it's more critical than ever, but also more challenging than it's ever been. And I'd be remiss if I did not again emphasize that while we celebrate today the opening of this grand building, the new home for 60 veterans currently experiencing homelessness, we must still remember that hundreds of other veterans will still call the streets their home tonight. This project shows that we know what to do to end homelessness, both for veterans and non-veterans, through the development of supportive housing and through the affordable housing for those in need. We just need to continue to advocate for policies and find and to bring the solutions to the scale that's necessary to meet the needs of those who are without a safe place to call home tonight. We at the Coalition will continue to work to meet our mission of creating lasting solutions to homelessness here in the Metro Denver area and throughout the state of Colorado. We invite you to continue to support us in our mission. And again, we thank those who have made it possible. And before I throw it open to questions, I also want to acknowledge again the state Department of Local Affairs, Rick Garcia is its director, and Allison George is the director of the Colorado Division of Housing. The Division of Housing have been partners with us in probably every development we've done over the last 30 years. And so with their support, with the support of local communities, and again, with the support of the broader community, we can get tremendous things done. And we look forward to many, many more of these. So again, we'll open it up for any questions that folks might have.
Hey, this is Grant Stringer from the Aurora Sentinel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Terrific. I just was looking for an explanation of how the monthly rent payments for residents will be subsidized. Can you explain the network of subsidies that will help them out with that? I think someone said Section 8 earlier.
That's right. So there are two components of the Section 8 program that will provide subsidies to each veteran who will be residing here. So one is the VASH program, which is a special veterans allocation of Section 8 vouchers in conjunction with the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And they provided an allocation of vouchers to the Colorado Division of Housing, who has then provided 30 VASH vouchers to support the rents of 30 of the residents. The Division of Housing added from their Section 8 general allocation project-based vouchers for the other 30 units. So through that, both Section 8 programs, what that means is that no veteran will have to pay more than 30% of their adjusted income toward the rent, and HUD, through the Division of Housing, will essentially make up the difference of what that veteran can pay and what it costs to operate the facility, basically the contract rent. So that makes it affordable. So not only do we have the subsidies to build the units and to build them in an environment that's very challenging to make it happen, but every veteran who lives here will be ensured that they have affordability, whether they enter with no income on day one, will help them get a job, help them get VA benefits. And when their income goes up, their rent will go up proportionally. Other questions? Kathy, any questions from the chat that we'd want to highlight?
Yeah, I think maybe the only other question is how we'll get the individuals into the units. So where the referrals might come from and how will we actually move people in?
Great. So the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Eastern District Homeless Branch will be providing the referrals for the VASH vouchers. And so they, through their network of programs, both folks who are currently on the streets tonight but have been outreached to by the VA, as well as those who may be temporarily in supportive housing or in emergency shelters, there's a prioritization that occurs, and those referrals will be made by the VA, and we'll be able to then provide that housing for those with the VASH vouchers. The other veterans will be referred through the community-wide one home system that's operated through the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative. And so again, using a prioritization tool, particularly targeting veterans who may not be currently connected with the VA system, we'll be able to house those individuals as well and help them connect to the VA if they so desire, or help them get other support from the community to meet their health and ongoing housing needs.
Great, thanks for that. I had one other question raised today about timing of people moving in and how COVID may have impacted that.
So I mentioned that we were fortunate that the governor's order, emergency order going back into the spring, that did not, and this is not the case in every state in the country, exempted construction services, particularly for affordable housing. So our partners at Alliance Construction Solutions implemented a protocol to ensure that the workers who were there were safe by doing screening, temperature checks and the like, and to limit access to the site, and to maintain social distancing during construction. And so while we were concerned at first that this might delay the completion of construction, I think the great work that Alliance did in collaboration with their subcontractors and with our housing development team, there was no delay as it related to the completion of construction. As it relates to the veterans, certainly everyone who is experiencing homelessness now, whether they're on the streets or whether they're in one of our shelters, have a heightened vulnerability to exposure of the COVID virus. And while we as a community have worked very hard to implement policies and create new facilities, including master leasing motels to provide isolation and spacing and distancing, along with on-site social services and healthcare for those who need it, in order to minimize the transmission of the virus amongst the homeless population, including doing outreach and testing on the streets. The folks at our Stout Street Health Center have done screening and testing for thousands of people, and our colleagues at the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, as well as the Denver Department of Public Health, have done a great job in terms of implementing protocols, doing the screening and testing, isolating folks when needed, and providing care to them. So we've been able to keep the numbers of folks who are infected below the general population, and the number of deaths, to a minimum. So we're very grateful for that. And I know that the veterans who will soon be moving in, starting as early as next week, will be glad to have a place to call their home, where they can stay at home when there's a stay-at-home order, or otherwise isolate if they feel that they've been exposed to the virus. But more importantly, for once this virus goes away, which we pray that it will very soon, that people will have an ongoing place to call their home.
Great, thank you. And I think that is all of the questions that we have today.
Great, thanks, Kathy. And so again, thanks everyone for participating today. We look forward to your ongoing support. We look forward to you visiting Fitzsimons and seeing this new housing when you have a chance. We again are so excited for the veterans who will soon be able to call the Renaissance Veterans Apartments their home. So thank you. Be well, be safe, socially distance, wear a mask. Encourage all of your other folks to do so, particularly as we enter a very vulnerable time during the holiday season. So thank you, and have a great afternoon and weekend.